Thank you for joining me. Hi. Thank you for joining me for Shell's Pearls of Wisdom. I am here with the beautiful first place winner of Sweet Miss Sweet Charity, Jasmine. How are you doing,
Hey,
baby?
how's it
AKA,
going?
what's your pinup?
Jenny, be good.
Denny be good. Let me tell you about this lady right here, right here. We just competed together on a charity that Joe McKay threw online on Saturday, April, was it 18th, I think?
18th, yep.
And she won the most money to go toward a fundraiser that is going to small businesses that were affected by the coronavirus. So I just want to give her special props because not only did she raise the most, she raised almost all of it by herself.
Yeah.
Once I got the numbers of like how much we raised and then I knew how much she raised, I was like, damn, she almost did this herself. So I just want to say congratulations. We're going to talk about this a little bit more because not only did she win, but this was actually her first competition. So that's
Yep.
kind of super exciting. So nice way to hit it out of the park on your first time at bat there, baby.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So just to kind of give you a little bit more background on Jasmine, she is she's 39 years old. She's a mother of two a boy and a girl, and she's been married for 15 years. She originates from New York City. Woo-hoo. And she is in the military. She's also Army and a very high ranking. She's an E8. I'm just learning about all the rankings, but an E8 is only one ranking from the highest rank you could be for an enlisted member of the Army. So not only is she in it, but she's killing it. So congratulations on that too.
Thank you.
And she kind of told me a little bit more about like when she was being brought up in New York City. Everybody knows that when you're brought up in like a major metropolitan area, there's a lot of ups and downs and highs and lows, especially when you can be in more of the poorer neighborhoods. And she did express that she was in some of the poorer neighborhoods growing up. She knows how it is to grow up without heat, without water, having that mindset of you might not know where your next meal is coming from. Those are the kind of things that she's already survived. And that was before the age of even 7 years old. So at 7, we'll start with her story and her journey because that is when her mother, she did realize that she was going to need more help taking care of her daughter. So she asked the parents, the grandparents to help step in, like a lot of our grandparents do at that age, to help raise the child. And we will let you start from that point on.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for
Yeah.
being here.
So, yeah, from about 7 years old, my mom, she was first generation here in the U.S. My grandmother, she was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and she had migrated over to New York City. My grandfather generated in Honduras and came over to New York City, and then they started their wonderful family. But it was kind of rough because my mom, she, tried her best with the means that she could. And the times that were rough was the time, when it's in the middle of the winter and you don't have hot water and there's no electricity and you're taking a cold ass shower or a cold ass bath. And sometimes, it was 3 kids over a can of raviolis or, one box of cereal or that block of cheese. And my mom, she had food stamps. We were in Section 8 housing. My grandparents, they lived in a nicer part of town. And I would bounce back and forth a lot, but my mom, she tried with what she could. And lots of times there was a lot of abuse that surrounded her. And being a mother, naturally and instinctively, she tried to keep me and shelter me from all this abuse. But it took an effect. It took a mental effect on me as a child, 7, 8, 9 years old, 10 years old, growing up. seeing her being physically abused, seeing her in the situations that she was in where we would have to sleep in the shelter for, a month or two, just so that way she can get the next Section 8 apartment.
Right.
And it was rough, seeing her go through that. There was a time we were in the shelter and I woke up because I felt something on me and there was a rat on me, and we were sleeping on a floor with blankets because the shelter was overcrowded. And then she had my other two siblings, which are my half siblings, and trying to understand what life was like in their eyes because we had our differences. I didn't understand why I was dropped off at grandma and grandpa's house while they got to live with mom. And it caused a lot of emotional turmoil between us as siblings because I would tease them and I'd, like have this hate, so to speak. And I don't like to say that because it's such a strong word, but it was such a hard, unloving environment because I didn't understand why. Why was I being pushed out? Why was I pushed away? And the hardest part even more was that they had a dad and I didn't know who my dad was, and there was so many different questions of life, about love, being accepted, being neglected, that just kind of plagued me as a kid. And I grew up. Um, my mom she would come by, and my grandfather, he was very, as you would say, an authoritarian, a disciplinarian. So
The nice way we say militant.
yeah, right. Um, Once I was in his custody, and I did not go with my mom for a while, I learned the disciplinary side of the house. And, I would scrub floors. I would go out and paint. I was doing yard work. I was doing housework. My grandparents were very, very 1930s,
Yeah.
like I was
That
scrubbing
old
floors,
school.
old school,
Old school. Yep.
and it was no going outside and go get a switch. It was you're gonna kneel on some rice in the corner with your nose touching the wall.
Oh my goodness. We did the holding the buckets where like you couldn't like let the buckets like droop and stuff. I know this. Nobody knows having the nose to the wall unless you're militant. Like that is like, and they put a piece of paper sometimes, and that paper like hit the floor. That means you moved away. Like I know this. I know this. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
and there's I can't I will never bash my grandfather because he was doing that man,
Right.
you know, he had an education up to 9 years old, and then he started working on his own. And he worked every day of his life. And when he came to the US, nothing, he ain't skip a beat, and when I entered his life, he ain't skip a beat any less. And
Right.
he was just trying to show me things to prevent me from failing in life. And even though he was very militant about it, it built that structure that I needed. It let me know where my faults were, and it let me know where my strengths are. And I thank him because I'm a better mom today for that. And my grandmother, even though he was the disciplinary, my grandma was the loving one.
Oh.
She loved on me. She always hugged me. She always talked to me. But it was sad to see her because mentally she was breaking down from her traumas in life. So I would see her in and out the hospital of the psych ward. I would
You
have
know
to
what
go visit.
mental disorder she suffered from?
She had Alzheimer's, a variation of Alzheimer's. She had schizophrenia. And then, she had nervous breakdowns, she had strokes. Um, yeah, so, and then it just seeing her in that aspect. And by this time I was 10, 11 years old. And, it was hard seeing my grandma inside of a hospital room that locked, and she was being fed all these pills, you know,
Yeah.
coming home and just being a zombie, and then it it hurt because she was the love, she was the nurture, the she was that heart, that beating heart that kind of kept the love flowing somewhere that I lacked from other parts of my family.
Yeah.
And even though I had my grandma and grandpa, I still yearned for my mother
Of
and to
course.
know who my father was.
Yeah, of course. So thank you for sharing about, it makes me feel like I know your grandma. I love her. Um, it's a lot to take in when you are that young and like you said, your mom dropped you off and then she has like this whole other family. And then you kind of, like you said, had a little bit of animosity toward even the other siblings in the house. But you did express to me that even when you would spend like the summers or you would go see her for a little bit of time, that being around your mom wasn't the best either, though.
No, no, it wasn't. There was times where, um, so there was physical abuse from the men that were around her, whether they were physically abusing her, beating her, and I would witness this, or I became the center of that abuse. Um,
Did you
one,
ever feel like if you were there, it took a little bit of the abuse off your mom because then they had you to focus on too?
no, not at all. I felt I brought more abuse into that world because I was the other kid and I was not their
Oh.
kid. And I feel that
So
the
the other
times that,
children weren't getting abused; it was just you because you were not there.
yeah, yeah.
Is
And
that
it
another
was rough.
reason why you might have had animosity too? Because I mean, I know
Yeah.
even as an adult, I'm 39 years old, and I know right now that if I was in an environment where I would go around my siblings and they were treated better than me and I was treated worse, like, of course I'm not going to like them. I mean, even if it's not their fault. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it was hard, because there was times where, like I said, um, I ended up spiraling out of control more and more because of that. Verbally abusing my mom, emotionally wreaking havoc on myself. Um,
what did you do
verbally,
when you say that?
well, I used to say things to my mom like, "You should have never had me. I wish you would have never had me." Um, I used to feel not good enough. Um, I used to just kind of cry and just feel like this gaping pain of I don't belong here. I don't want to be here. Um,
Did you
and
ever, I meant to ask you this off camera, but I meant to. Do you ever have suicidal tendencies or attempt suicide?
I did when I got older. When I
Let's
got
talk
older,
about that then, because with everything that you're discussing, it just sounds like someone who always was in depression. And
yeah.
I just wanted to know, like, how did you handle that much emotional stress on a daily basis and not have those kind of thoughts or feelings inside?
Well, during that age, and seeing the things that were going on around my mom, and then having the balance that my grandmother and grandfather provided, um, it became normal. That was life. I knew that when I was with my mom, it was going to be turbulent, it was going to be crazy and chaotic, and I had to act a certain way in order to get by. And that's where the tough kid came out. Like I was the witty one, I was the smart ass. I was not taking it from nobody. And then when I was with grandma and grandpa, I was the hard worker. I was the kid that played on the neighborhood block. I was the kid that stuck up for all the other kids that were being,
Like
bullied in some
bullies.
way. And then in some way, shape, or fashion, I also became a bully to some kids because, like when you're trying to balance this out and then go through your teenage hormones, it's not going to be perfect. And there was times where, yeah, I was I was a little bitch.
You can say,
Um,
you can curse, it's all right.
yeah, I was a bitch. I was that kid playing double dutch that if you said something slipped out your mouth, I'm gonna stop what I'm doing and I'm gonna walk over and we're gonna be fighting. And that's it. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. And I do have my times of regret because of that, because I feel like sometimes I snapped out of aggression because of what was going on behind the scenes that none of my friends understood.
Yep. And that is why people say abuse people, because it's not just so much like you just want to be a bitch in your words. It wasn't that you were a bitch, you just didn't know any other way, because that's just what
Yeah,
you were always being taught. And
yeah,
unfortunately, misery loves company. So when you are an unhappy person, it's real easy to put
cope.
that on. Yeah, it's easy to put that on other people, because it's a nicer feeling not to be alone. So if you can almost hurt, it almost feels like this is your normal. This is how it is.
Yeah,
And I know I used to look at other kids, if I were like mean or whatever, and because of how tough I would be like, suck it up.
yeah,
I deal with all of this, and you can't handle like someone teasing you or something. Like, suck it up.
like
Like, it's almost
exactly.
like that, you know.
Yeah,
Um, but you're going back and forth between your mom sometimes and then your grandparents. I know you said that was kind of hard because you lived in like these two worlds that like simultaneously
yeah,
were going on at the same time. And you did express to me that the neighborhood that you lived in, because of how you called it the projects, if anybody knows what that is, it's the heart of a city where it's just so broken down and ruined that it's just poor. There's no
yeah,
other way to describe it. It's very poor. And she explained to me that she couldn't even just walk out the front door sometimes without being confronted or having a confrontation with someone because of the environment that she was in. And I know it's made you the tough cookie you are now, but I know back then you weren't respecting
mm-mm,
that nature. It just was horrible, probably.
yeah.
Um,
It was horrible. I mean, like there's times where you walk out and there's a dead body or somebody OD'd on the side, or there's a shootout going on, or you running through the projects because there is going to be a shootout. Like you get to know the environment that you were in,
did you
but
live
it
in
was
fear
so
ever? Like just the fear of death, the fear of like getting hurt, shot? Like how did that like
no.
as a kid?
So when I first moved with my mom, there was a fear because I remember the library, the public library that was right across the street was they set it on fire. And there was a body that was in front of a bum that had died. So that was, and I'm telling you, like when I had seen this, to me, it was traumatic, but it was
Yeah,
like, what's going on?
yeah.
But as time went on, like I said, it became normal, whether it was, Pops on the corner that OD'd last night and now his body's over in the bush, or yo, I got beef with so and so and he's about to get shot up tonight. And it's like, damn, all
Yeah.
right, make sure I'm inside or
Right. Well, I'm gonna be chilling in my house that night. Like, yeah.
yeah,
Um, so I'm gonna kind of fast forward and kind of get to the age of 17. And the reason why I get to this age, because I know you expressed that this is a moment in time where you had a traumatic experience happen. Can you tell us a little
yeah,
bit about that?
yeah. So I I was spiraling out of control because my grandfather passed away just the year before. And like I said, the disciplinarian, the authoritarian, the authority was gone. And
That structure.
there was no holding me back. Um, I started doing drugs. I got really, really, really heavy into cocaine. Um, I was spiraling. I was the go-to person to go hang out and party and find out where the next party was. But I also knew everything that was going on in my mother's world when it came to the drugs. And, you know, it was hard for me to be able to show my face sometimes because I had to account for myself with my grandmother. And as I spiraled more and more and more, um, I wanted to also be with somebody, and I was with this person that, you know, I felt would be okay, but it wasn't okay. I was with them for about a year and a half, off and on, drugs involved and everything. And, you know, I dropped out of high school. I figured I could be on my own. I was pretty much living on my own. I moved out of the house. I was trying to do what I thought was right, especially because this is what I had seen other women go through in my
Right.
life. And, you know, I'm like, well, you know, I'm good. Like I'm in control of my own life now. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And no, it wasn't. And it went from being a cute little puppy love relationship to I love you kind of relationship to, if you don't do this, this is what's going to happen type of relationship. And then I was raped, and it it was traumatizing for me in the aspect that it was not wanted, but it wasn't him. And but he didn't care. He just said, well, you get what you deserved. And it hurt because it was his friends. And um, it was almost like he knew that I would go running back to him because I was lost and in control, and he didn't want me to have that control. He didn't want me to have that power. He didn't want me to be straying far away from him. He wanted me in his pocket.
Right.
So if I was out hanging out and X, Y, and Z happened to me, then I would go back to him and stay with him where he had the control, where he had the power.
Yep.
And I basically I was 17. I mean, I picked myself up and all the dignity that I had left. I untied myself from the mattress, and I went back to our apartment, and I packed my shit. I got in my car and I left. Um, I attempted to OD. You asked me if I had ever tried suicide, and I attempted OD with cocaine. And I was on a 3-day binger, and I was up and I was rolling and I was going wherever my heart desired. I'd fill up the tank and keep driving. Um, and finally, you know, like my nose couldn't handle it no more. I was bleeding. I was shaking. My teeth were clenching. I couldn't go to sleep. I was up. I was erratic. I was just a hot mess. Um, and I don't know what ended up happening, but either I passed out or, you know, sleep hit me, and I woke up and I was in the middle of a parking lot in Tampa, Florida. And there was another chapter, you know, where
Right.
oh shit, where am I?
Right.
um it was rough, but I felt like it was meant to be.
I was gonna say it probably was like where you needed to be.
I was not expecting to be that far away from New York City. But yep, that's where I needed to be. And um, I remember walking inside of or like a grocery store, and I had probably like 350 bucks with me that time. And I knew what it was like to scrap, you know, like what did I have to do to spend the least amount of money to get what I needed?
Yep.
Um, so I went in there and I was getting like the cheap toothpaste with the cheap toothbrush. I went into the bathroom and I grabbed the roll of toilet paper and the bar of soap that was in there, and I would give myself bird baths in any kind of restroom that I could.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I would walk in grocery stores, I would eat fruit. as I walked through and grabbed bread and peanut butter and, bare minimum lifestyle. And I was like that I was living off that $300, yeah, for about a month or so. And I was okay. But I was also actively looking for a job. Um,
Sure.
it's not like I was just, but I was living out my car. I didn't have to pay rent. I didn't have to worry about clothes. I had what I had in the car, what I threw in the car from that night. And finally I walked into this one place that was asking for housekeeping.
Mhm.
And the lady was looking at me all sideways and she's all like, "Are you okay?" And I just was like, "No, I'm not." And she was like, "Are you on any kind of drugs?" I was like, "Not at the moment." And then she was like, um, "Do you have anywhere, like, do you have anywhere to go?" And I was like, I remember telling her, I was like, "I just need a job." And I was cracking my voice was cracking. I was tearing up. I was like, "I just need a job. I just need to make money. I swear I'm not going to be a problem." I was like, "Can we talk about this somewhere else? If not, I need to go." And then she pulled me into the back room and she said to me, I broke down and I told her what was going on with my family. I told her how I ended up down there. I told her how I was on drugs and that, like, I'm clean. I wasn't doing drugs, but had somebody given me a bag of Coke, I probably would have done it. But I wasn't around anybody that I knew. So I felt safe that I wasn't going to. Um, and she handed me a business card and she said, "Go over here." And it was almost like a rehabilitation center. It was a church facility that she told me to go over to. And she said, "I want you to go talk to this person and tell him what's going on." And I was like, "Okay." So I go over there, I asked for the guy and um, I told him what was going on. And he was like, you have to be here every evening and we're going to talk and we're going to try to get you. It was kind of like a job corps, like you come in, you talk, you do the training, you test out, and then we'll send you on your way and you could continue to work with her. And I did that and I continued that for about 9 months. I stayed there. I cleaned up. I didn't communicate with anybody that I didn't want to communicate with in New York City. My mom, she was kind of mad. She, threatened to send people after me, and she really didn't have an understanding of how rock bottom I hit.
Right.
Um,
Did you stay
and
clean the whole time?
I did. Yeah,
Awesome.
I did. I mean, I smoked cigarettes, but that was my stress relief.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
gonna say a lot of times, even if you weren't a smoker prior, a lot of people will pick up smoking when they're trying to actually kick another habit. So
yeah, but a lot of times, like on my free time, I would be wherever there was water. I would go to the beach and I would sit at the beach. I would listen to the waves, and that was for me was so soothing.
yeah,
Um, just seeing other people interact and having some sort of normalcy in my
yeah,
life. But I was alone. I didn't have anybody to tarnish that or take it away from
right.
me. Um, and
It's almost like you
the
had a little bit of self-discovery. When you
Yes,
have no one else to distract you, you only can have yourself to like get to know.
yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like, I would go out to the clubs and stuff, but it wasn't the same. It was like, yeah, I'm 18 years old, but I'm here to party. I'm not here to the other party. Nope,
Yeah,
gotta go. Um, but I felt aged. I felt so aged amongst my peers that I was not on the same level as they were.
you
Um,
had to grow up way too fast. Like
yeah,
you lived probably three lifetimes in like the short time that you were on this earth.
yeah, and so then um, one time I get this dreaded phone call that I really didn't expect to hear was my grandmother had a stroke. And this was her first stroke. And so by this time I had been there, like I said, 9 months. I was already 18 years old, had my shit together. I felt complete, but then my world like crumbled. And I dropped everything and I left. And here I go back to New York City, like not knowing what I'm gonna walk into.
Right.
Um, and that was kind of scary because I felt so put together that I was also scared that I was gonna fall apart again because I knew everything that got me to that point of leaving was right back.
Exactly. Right. That's what I was gonna say. Like, how did it feel to? You kind of touched on it, but to know that you were going back to the place that like set you down this path of just self-destruction.
I was scared. I was scared, but um, in a way, I felt up for that challenge. Like I went back and I didn't have a vengeance with anybody. I had a
Mhm.
vengeance with myself because I felt like I am not going to let no motherfucker bring me to that point again.
Love it. I love it. So instead of you taking the opportunity to fall back into your old lifestyle, you were going to be like, you know what? No, I worked this hard to get here, and regardless of what state, city I'm in, I'm going to still take care of me and do what's best for me.
Yes.
Did that
Yep.
work out for you?
It did. So I ended up going back to school. I completed my GED. I know it's small, but
No, it's
that's
not,
more than
baby. It's not
that's
small.
more than what most can accomplish from
Yes,
my family,
yes.
And I'm proud to say that I was able to accomplish my GED while I was by the time that I was 19 years old. I also enrolled myself into school and I started taking classes for nursing, day and night classes. And we had a family friend that had a bar and also a nightclub. And so I started bartending there, which to me was a great highlight because I had the best of both worlds. Like I had the calm tranquility of Jasmine going to school during the day. And then
Mm-hmm.
at night, I got to see the parties and everybody popping off. But I did not, I
Yep.
did not, I didn't need to be in that nightlife as much as everybody else. I got to watch
Right.
it.
You got to be on the outside looking in instead of being in the middle of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and that was really, it was, it was just day to day, like I wake up, thank you, I woke up today. And then at the end of the day, by the time that I lay my head on the pillow, I survived another day. And it was a counting clock of survival for me. And every day that I made it was another day of proof that I was I was on the right track.
You totally are living, just describing that for people that have ever had addiction to anything. You're just living the creed of what people who are battling addiction or trying to be clean. You're just living it day by day. Like that's all you can do. Take
Yeah.
it day at a time. And
Yeah.
that was exactly what you were doing. And that was the right way because it kept you from slipping if you weren't overwhelming yourself with things.
Yeah.
Um, I know you told me, just to kind of like interject, but it was the age of 20 when she had a group of friends or a girlfriend, a good girlfriend, you said, and
Yep.
kind of like tugged a little bit at an idea of going and enlisting. And you kind of described it as being like, okay, let's do it. Like she kind of was just like, yeah, I'm down. So
Yep.
they went to the enlisting office at 20 years of age
Yeah.
and she enlisted into the army. And that is basically how you got to that point of your life of being in the military now. Now you're officially in the military. And then she said, shortly after enlisting, being officially joined August 28th of 2001, of course, all of us know what happened in 2001, September 11th happened. So here you go, freshly enlisted into probably one of the scariest but most exciting time of your life because you're going to do some new exciting things. But then this tragic hits the world, which is
Yeah.
September 11th, and put the whole halt to your plans because you thought you were going to be off to the races and doing all these things, and it held you back for what you said, like 3 months more, where you
Yeah.
had.
So um I had signed my contract to leave, and like basically did everything, joined and everything. I did not break the news to my family at all, only because that was my personal accomplishment. Like, I didn't want anybody to shit on my parade.
Yep.
So
You want no haters.
I didn't want no haters. And even though they didn't hate on it as much, but it was my accomplishment. And then that tragic day happened, and it was it it was so unfortunate because so I was on the last ferry that was heading over and got turned around. My stepfather at the time was in a methadone program recovering from heroin, and he was in Manhattan. And so I was going into the city to go visit him, and I was going to go pick up some clothes and shoes for my brother and sister that were, in school. And, I was just kind of doing the whole, I'm going to take care of everybody before I go. And then that shit happens, and I'm like, oh, hell. Oh, shit. And, it was
Because
almost
you don't know
like,
what's going to happen. You're enlisted now. You could have got sent straight to war. You could have got
well, I was still, how you say, like, I hadn't gotten the basic training yet.
Okay.
But I was
I didn't know how that
contracted.
worked, because that was always my biggest fear, that my boys would enlist and then like the next day it'd be like, we're going to war, and then like all the kids that are enlisted were going to get shipped straight to.
No, so I was contracted to the military. So after that whole thing and the boat came back, the recruiting station was literally right around the corner from the Staten Island ferry.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked over to the recruiting station, and I remember walking upstairs, and I was like, yo, what the hell? Y'all need to give me like a gun. Y'all need to give me like a uniform. Give me like I don't know, something. Can we go over there? Can we help? Can we do something? But I was so panicked.
Mm-hmm.
And that they sat me down at a phone, and there was no phones working. Shell, there was no phones working. And he sat me down at the phone, and he was like, answer the phone and tell us if anybody comes upstairs. And if anybody comes in that's a recruit, just talk to them and have them calm them down. And I was like, oh, okay. And so for me, I was like, dang, is this what HR is all going to be about? Because I had signed up for human resources, HR.
Right.
So here I am at this phone that was never going to ring. He was using that as a coping mechanism to sit me down and get me to just be calm from everything that just happened.
Yeah.
And then later on that night, he had dropped me off at the house, at my mom's house, and who is now living with my grandmother in Staten Island. And I go and I break the news, and I was like, I joined the service. So, and I remember everybody just kind of like, oh my God, you're going to war. You're going to go. And I'm like, are you sure? And so it kind of like scared me again, and come to have it that they delayed our entry, which I think it was for the better, because it gave me some time to understand what I was going into. So when I showed up for basic training and they was doing all this hooting and hollering, yeah, it scared me and stuff, but nah, not really. Hey, my grandfather got you beat there, Drill.
Right. I was gonna say, you didn't realize you were being trained for this your whole life.
Exactly. So basic to me was fun. It was exciting, go crawling through the mud. Okay. Go under that concertina wire. All right. They're going to be shooting ammo across me, called whatever. Okay, cool.
Like, have you been down my block? Have you been on my block? I do this for fun.
This is back on St. Mark's Place in Brooklyn. You got me fucked up.
Love it.
Oh,
love it.
So, to me, it was a different experience, and everything that I trained up for, like you said, in my life.
Yeah, and isn't it funny how, like, when you're going through these things, you don't see a lot of the times the light at the end of the tunnel, because it's so dark that you just don't see the light.
Yeah.
And you made it to this other point in your life where, like you said, a lot of the stuff that you had to go through, being raised in a project, having like someone who had an illness and having that kind of disorder, having the militant granddad, and having these things in your life has gotten you to the point where when you got to the military, where most people don't even make it past the boot camp, they don't even make it past basic because a lot of people are not built for this. Like I say that all the time when I talk to anybody who's in the military. Everybody's not built for boot camp. Everybody's not built for that lifestyle.
Right.
So I think the reason why you're such a high ranking member of the Army now and being a woman of color at that too, is because you survived the real world. And that is harder than anybody's military. The real
Thank you.
world is so different. So I commend you on that because the first time somebody told me to do a push-up on command, I would have been like, ring the bell, ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. No, I'm good. I'm good. Are you sure? I'm positive. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I commend you because not everybody's
Thank you.
built for that life. So thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much for your
much.
service too.
Thanks for the support. Woo.
Oh yeah, girl, I got to. You said the age of 21 and 22, you lived still, you were in the service, you were still doing um, that part of your life. Unfortunately, because I asked you at this part when we were off camera, was everything pretty smooth up to that point? And unfortunately, you told
Yeah,
me it was
in a
pretty
way.
smooth. Right. I was like, in a way, and then you kind of like shed a little light on some in a particular situation that wasn't that great.
Yeah. So like most, I ended up falling in love and, meeting someone who I thought I was going to spend eternity with. And life was great for the first few months. And then I ended up in a very emotionally and physically and mentally abusive relationship. Um, and no matter what was happening, I was always running back. And there was times where I felt like it was the right thing to do because this is what I saw females before me do. And this is what I thought was right. Um, and it was so bad because I felt so torn, like having the love for somebody, but yet this person is kicking me while I'm on the floor. This person is choking me up against the wall. Like this person is screaming in my face and putting his fist up in my face, and I couldn't. I mean, like I still have scars from the broken glass of crawling on the floor, and it it hurt. um and I stayed in that relationship for 2 years, and going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until finally where I knew something was wrong when I hurt him back. Um, and I had to see him get stitches. And I knew that it was me or him, and I needed to choose me, and I needed to get out. And I did. And there was times where even after we divorced, well, before I go that far, it got to the point where during our relationship my lung collapsed. And it was a spiral of things that was going on. There was the physical abuse, there was the training, there was like just all kinds of stuff.
Right.
um, and that's where, like once I was out of that relationship, there was times where he would call back up, and he'd be drinking and crying on the phone, and asking me to take him back. And I was at a different point. I didn't want anything to do with it. I was healed, and
Right.
I was healing, and I allowed myself to be sucked into that type of environment
Right.
because of where I came from. But
Right.
I also got myself out about the ashes, so to speak,
Yeah.
and I was gone.
Good for you. Good for you. I don't know what the statistic is offhand, but I know um, before a woman really leaves a relationship for good, like I said, I don't know what the statistic is, but I know it's like a woman can leave like a dozen times before they finally have that one final last straw. Because a lot of people, first thing they want to say to a woman if they haven't left is, "Why didn't you just leave? If it was that bad, what?" And it's not that easy. It's not that
No.
like black and white. And even when the person in it knows that they should leave, it's still
Yeah.
not that easy.
Yes.
So
Right.
I want people to understand when they're listening to all these women's journeys and all these stories and they hear something of this magnitude, I don't want you guys to be under the impression like, well, if you knew it was wrong and you knew this, why did you? It's not that easy. You also are dealing with people that you also love and care about. And
Yeah.
so it's not that black and white where just because you know that's not healthy, you can just walk away.
Mhm.
Um, I always like to compare love to a drug. And out of all the drugs in the world, you got your cocaine, your heroin, your meth, whatever, your over the counter or your prescription drugs. Love is the most dangerous drug in the world.
Yeah.
It will make you do the dumbest thing, the most unsafe thing, the most unloving thing. So the next time you ever think about someone who has not stepped away from an abusive relationship, just think of it like that. They are in a drug and the drug is calling them back every time and they need that fix. And it's just that simple. And it's not
Yeah.
until you're ready to kick the habit that you're able to truly walk away and be done with it. And that's just what it
And
is.
to add to that, the best thing to do if you want to be in an addictive relationship with love, love yourself. Love yourself first because nobody else is going to love you the way you do. And if
Exactly.
you don't love yourself, then other people are going to take advantage of that.
Thank you so much. We say that from RuPaul all the time. If you do not love yourself, who the hell else will?
Yeah, yeah,
So you got
yeah.
it. That's a good pro right there. I know we're not at that part, but that's a good pro right
Yeah, that is definitely my pearl.
there. um, so she ends up divorcing this first guy, and then while she's still enlisted this whole time, then she does meet her now husband that she's been married to for the 15 years, and she has the two children with. Just because I can see our time is going, because her story is so good and so intense, I can let her keep on talking. But in between there, her husband and her do enter a little bit of turbulence during their marriage, which is something that we all who have been married have experienced. And hers was thrived by two factors. Her grandmother did pass, which we all know that was her heart, her rock, her soul. So to lose someone that important to you has to be one of the hardest things that she's ever gone through. And
Yep.
then on top of that, her husband's sister commits suicide. And at that time of her life, they're still kind of newlyweds. They haven't been married that long. And then on top of that, you lose a influential person in your life. And now you're also thrown into motherhood and having to take care of children that are not yours. Not that you don't love them the same, but they're not yours. So that's a big stressor. So
Yeah.
at the age of 29, she ends up going backwards a little bit in time and starts drinking a little bit more than she wants to. She did share that with me. And I asked her how did her husband feel about that, since she did let me know that they were having some stressors in their marriage. I asked, well, how did your husband feel about you drinking? And she did express to me that he was somewhat oblivious, which um, surprises me because I can't let my husband take a poop without me knowing what's going on. So I was kind of like, how did you get that past him? And she said that they really had never dug deep into like her past and like how certain things would affect her and how mentally and emotionally she struggled. So I'm happy to say that there was a point because they were talking about themselves getting a divorce that it allowed them to open up that communication and the two
Yeah.
of them actually have an open dialogue about some things that she never got to share before, which is amazing because that is one of the things that most relationships need to be able to thrive, and that is the open honesty. And even the dirty, the ugly, and the disgusting need to be talked about because who wants to live with someone and have all those secrets and all that pain that they have to hold inside?
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. And with that all being said, um, she's been sober. I like to say that she has been clean, and you haven't gone back. You haven't relapsed. So
Nope.
congratulations on that. Um,
Thank you to the military and my self-esteem. Whoop, whoop.
and I just can't even imagine the way you feel, because that would be just such a like inspiration right there. And she's a great mother, and she has her two beautiful kids. She didn't really want to talk about them too much on camera because they're still too young, and she doesn't want to bring that up. But I personally know that she's a great mother, and she's doing a rock star job, and everything that she's been through in her life, she's applying in her parenting now, and that's going to make her children these wonderful human beings as well because of how strong their mother is. So that's just going to be awesome as well. So
Thank
congratulations
you.
on that. And then we kind of go further in life because she still has to talk about her struggle with a major illness that she suffered, which is big C word that we never want to hear our doctors ever tell us. And she did get that information when you were, I think you said 36
I was
years
36 years
old.
old.
So
Yep.
tell us a little bit about getting that information at such a young age.
I had gotten really sick. So after my lung collapse and everything, I have to go in for routine visits, just make sure that everything's okay. Um, and I went in and I really hadn't been feeling good. And so I gave them my history and they were like, well, what about your dad's history? And I was like, shit, I don't know. I don't know the man. And so they had put me in for some genetic cancer testing. And so it came back positive. So I've tested for the BRCA gene. And there, it is in the works for a double mastectomy, a full hysterectomy. And then I have to also watch some other areas like my thyroid. I do have spots in my thyroid. I had a test done in my left breast twice, which is very painful.
Mhm.
And it it only brought me to a new chapter of getting to know my family history in a good sense. Like, yeah, um, I carry this, and I know that I carry it, and there can be so many different other factors that come up, but I have to put a positive spin on that. And I decided to reach out and find out who my dad is, which we've had a very good communicating relationship for the
Mhm.
past 2 years. Um, I've also shed light into my sister and getting to know my 8 other siblings.
No.
Um,
You got a
yeah,
large family there, girlfriend.
yeah. Um, so getting to know um, the genetics of my father's side of the family and also shedding light into my sisters of the journey that I have gone through, and then seeing that I actually do relate to them and I don't even know them. um I
Genetics, boy,
remember,
I tell you, genetics is strong.
yeah, like my dad, he was a drug addict himself. He is a recovered alcoholic. He's a recovered drug addict. He was also homeless. He's spitfire, that man. And if he could have not, if I would not be the splitting image of him and not have known, I would have walked by him in the street and not have known it. But I'm the spitting image of this man. And I'm just so grateful to have him a part of my life and also my family's life, because now he can tell us his story in his words. And when it comes to, the big C word and everything that I carry in that, I realize in due time, in due time. But right now, it ain't gonna have its way with me.
Yeah.
I'ma just fight this fight one day at a time, 1 year to the next, 6 months to the next,
Mhm.
and wherever it takes me in life, it can't be where I came from.
Yeah. I just wanted to tell you the big C is just not it affects so many families across the world. Like it's just that scary. And the fact that you're taking such a like hold of it instead of letting it own you, you're owning it, is the best method, because it is one of those things that could be crippling if you let it
Yeah.
psychologically take a hold of you. So I'm very happy, and you have another sister here in the making that if you need help when you start going through whatever transitions that you have to go through to deal with it, when you're ready to do that, I'm here for you. I will be there.
Thank
I'll be
you.
someone to give you that, like, you can
Same
do
to
it.
you.
Yeah, you'll have a whole team of us, and that's kind of like why I did this transition, because this will bring us to you meeting a lovely woman, Joe, who you met in the military as well. And Joe also, when I did her interview, shared some health issues that she's dealt with before. So I know she's not a stranger to having to deal with things like that. And knowing that you might one day need to rally around a good group of girls, this will bring us to a good point for you entering the pinup world of being a baby pinup too. How has your
Yeah.
experience been, having this kind of community around you?
So this was kind of outside of the norm for me. And yes, Joe, she brought me into this back in
She
2015.
sucks you in.
Yeah, we went on a girls trip out to Vegas. We did a competition out there, and I saw just a different life. And I was so enthusiastic about it, but yet so scared. And if you've ever seen her closet, or yeah, right. So
Her closet's
every
my
time
apartment.
every time we would go out, she would be in a different theme. So it became more of an inspiration, seeing her, being around her, hearing her, talking with her. And when she said that she was putting this together, I was at a point where, like, most of us are, where we're hunting a journey. And I'm on a journey that this year I made it a point. This year is going to be about the things I want to do that are going to be a little outside of my comfort zone. And she said that she was doing this pinup contest to raise money towards organizations that were impacted by COVID-19. And I was like, shit, drop my name in there. I'm good. Let's do it. And she was like, what kind of a style are you? Just what theme are you going? I was like, shit, I don't know. It's just going to be fun, cute, and flirty. We're doing that. Let's do it. And I literally went into my closet and was like, what do I have? I have nothing, hardly anything in there. But I did have this one box that I was able to salvage from my grandmother's house after her passing. And it had a whole few, just like a few outfits of my grandmother's.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and so that dress that that I had for the photo contest, that purple dress, was
Mhm.
my grandmother's.
Oh,
Um,
wow. You look absolutely amazing too. Purple's my favorite color. So,
Thank you.
I mean, not to be biased, but I do like purple.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
you look, and I love the way you did like the little curls in your hair. That
Oh,
was,
Joe, show me how to do that.
oh yeah, I'm telling you, she hooked you up, baby. She did good.
Yes.
You look very good.
And so that's what kind of, put everything together for me. And then, of course, the charitable event, I always believe in paying it forward. I always believe in that. Even if I got $2 in my pocket, if I could spare a dollar, I'm gonna spare a dollar, because I was that person with the cup out on the street at one point. I was that person that needed money. I
Oh
was
yeah,
that
it's gonna make
person
me
that
cry.
didn't have. So when I see the opportunity to give back, I'm doing it. And that's what got me here. So
Yeah. That is amazing. That is something that people do not realize about the pinup community. This is why I'm doing these videos, because so many people look at the girls in pinup and they just see like the hair, the makeup, the prettiness, the dresses, and they're just like, oh, they're so pretty. But 95% of these women, and I'm only saying 95, it's probably more, but I'm only saying that because I'm just trying to keep the numbers safe. But probably 95% of these women are charitable people.
yeah,
Like, they are giving back to, from organizations that are helping the animals, to the organizations that are helping the ill children, to the military, to the people that are now affected by this horrible pandemic, the COVID-19. It's like anytime that they feel like there is a way that they can step in and do something, they do
We're
it.
doing it. Yeah.
Right. And they don't have to be even asked. It's not something like, hey, do you mind what you do? It's almost like, hey, where do you need us?
Yeah.
Just tell us. Where do you need us?
Exactly.
So the fact that this is my first time really meeting you and the first time for you competing, we had to be in a competition together. When they announced her name, I'm going to be dead honest. I was like, look at my girl, my woman of color, bringing in the money. Yes, girlfriend. Because unfortunately, African American, Hispanic women, women of color in general are just not represented as strongly in the pinup community as the Caucasian woman or, things of that nature. So it's not so much that I was just happy that she was a woman of color. It was the fact that she's now being celebrated and she's still a woman of color. And they don't look at her like a woman of color. She's just a woman who is beautiful and putting forth the effort to do something that is beyond who she is. And that is what I love about this community. They accept you for whoever you are. If you're big, if you're small, if you're black, if you're white, if you are older, if you're younger, they just accept everyone for who they are. And that is what I love.
Yeah.
So
I love it too.
Thank you for joining with me. We're both baby pinups together, and I think I'm going to now be like Joe and suck you into every competition I can think of to get you to go.
Yeah.
I think you would do amazing because you looked amazing. I didn't know you were new until you told me that you were new. You looked like a pro, so you did great.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, you did great.
That was only tips and tricks. That's
Girl, sometimes that's what you gotta do. It's called fake it till you make it. Nobody else needs to know.
Put the Vaseline on your teeth.
Right. Nobody needs to know about all this space that go on underneath it. The corsets that are being tied. Nobody needs to know about the push-up bras and the rolled up tube socks to make your boobs sit up here. Nobody needs to know all those secrets.
Yep.
So I am going to give Jasmine the opportunity now to look at her audience and let them know exactly what her pearls of wisdom, since she has gone through so much in her life. She has so much wisdom to tell. I'm sure she has probably about a cotillion wisdom, but let us know what's your favorite one that you have to tell yourself when you're going through the struggle. What do you say?
Honestly, write it down and weigh out your positives and your negatives. And in that message that you've written down, make sure that you love yourself. Put yourself on a pedestal. Don't tear yourself up. Tell yourself everything that has not been told to you that you need to hear, because you need to tell that to yourself, and put yourself back together. Don't let somebody else put you back together. Love yourself first and love everything that comes after that second.
I like it. Yeah. Yes. Love yourself first. This always comes down to loving yourself. A lot of women just don't know how to do that. We are so ready to take care of everybody else, but we never take the time to take care of ourselves.
We have to. We have to take care of ourselves. We are the mother of everything.
Of the earth.
Whether we are whether we are a mother or not, we are mothers by nature. We are taking care of our men. We are taking care of our children. We are taking care of our friends. We take care of our families. We instinctively do this. But if we don't take the time to love ourselves, we're just going to be depleted like that cup of water that keeps trickling out and over everything.
Yeah. One day it will run dry, and then you'll have nothing else to share. You'll have nothing else to give. And if you ever think of sadness, think of the person who has no one to love in their life. That is actually one of the saddest human beings, when everyone that they used to take care of go away. And then they almost feel like, what is their purpose? It's like when parents go through empty nest syndrome. It's like, we've been trying to get our kids ready to this point to take care of themselves, but then after they're gone, you look at yourself like, well, now what do I do? So,
what do I do now?
What do I do now? it's that kind of concept. Like, we want to love people so hard that if we don't have people to love, we feel like we don't have a purpose. But that's not true, because you always have yourself.
Yeah. It starts
You
with you.
do
Yeah.
something for yourself. Start pinup. Start writing a
Yeah.
book. Start, do
Yeah.
something. Do something. You write a book. You have way too much experience and way too much stuff that you've gone through that it's almost like it would be therapy, I think, to get it out. And like you said, you like to write it down and like
Yeah.
live your truth. That would be one amazing way. Amazing.
I'm not even gonna lie. I started writing one, and I go chapter by chapter of each year. So yeah, maybe in about another 5-6 years.
It's okay. It's okay. Sometimes it takes time. Masterpieces take time. So you take your time. But after hearing your story, and this, we didn't even get to touch about everything because we already hit like the hour mark. But if you guys got to actually get the full length, she has so much other stuff that she's actually gone through. It's just, I don't have enough platform to give it all to you. But her story is amazing. So thank you so much for being on my show today, Jasmine. Thank you so much for being vulnerable and letting us into a part of your life that was not always beautiful, but it has turned into something magnificent. And I am just grateful for that. And
thank you.
You're very welcome. And everyone out there, if you're going through something, if you are going through abuse, or if you have this kind of emotional turmoil, you're not alone. There are many people that have gone through something similar, or even the exact same thing you're going through. So if you have questions for Jasmine, if you want to reach out to her, I am sure she'll be more than willing to talk to people. If you have more, questions you want to ask, or if you just want to talk, that's what the pinup community is about, and that is why we're here. So thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already, hit like, subscribe, and I will see you guys around the bend. Remember, keep your crown straight and keep on pushing. All right. I love you guys. Bye, Jasmine. Hang on. Don't hang up yet.
Thank you.